right, worst books read in 2020. It's so hard to do this type of video because I don't really know if the worst books of 2020 or most disappointing books of 2020. Most disappointing would probably be a better way to word it, but it's just such a subjective thing and you don't want to offend anyone. I'm calling this my least favorite books or least favorite reads of 2020. It doesn't mean that these were like a favorite and just the bottom of the favorites. For me, these were just books that really fell flat. Either it was like the cast of characters, the plot structure, just something about the style of writing, or maybe some of the messages. These are my least favorite reads of 2020. Sadly, like a lot of them are YA, I feel like. Do you have a right to do a book review if you were probably not the intended audience to read something? Probably not. I'm just going to do this anyway. So early on in 2020, I read this duology by DeStefano called The Glass Spare. The sequel book was called The Cursed Sea, and it was like this YA fantasy about Wilhelmina. She's this princess and she has like 3 older brothers. Her father, the king, isn't such a nice guy. There's some tension with other kingdoms in the world and some tragic things happen. It was like a King Midas retelling. So in that story, you know, he touches things, it turns to gold. She touches things, they turn to gemstones. So there are some tragic things that can happen from that. I don't think I was the intended audience for this, but I will say apart from that, there were huge plot holes that just never got any kind of closure or resolution, which seriously irked me. But because I'm a completionist, I will finish things once I start them most of the time, or I come back to them later, but I'll always finish them at some point. DeStefano's The Glass Spare duology, it just wasn't for me. Maybe a 10-year-old would have enjoyed this. The other one, I was very disappointed and I was kind of bummed out not to like this because I had seen positive types of things on different book blogs and Instagram, and it was kind of a newer author. So it's the Mirage duology by Somaiya Daud. Mirage is book 1 and The Court of Lions is book 2. The Court of Lions was the book that was released in 2020. I got an advanced reader copy for that one from NetGalley, and it just kind of fell flat for me. It was somehow between being a science fiction type of book and a fantasy. So you had swords and that type of battle, but you also had like spaceship type of thing. So it was kind of Star Wars-esque in that sense. There's like some lesbian romance in it. The story just fell flat for me. I thought the characters were interesting. I thought some of the plot points were interesting yet predictable, but there was just no X factor to the books for me. I did a in-depth blog post about those books on my Story Darling website, so I'll link that blog post down below if you're interested in reading more in-depth thoughts on it. I'll put it there, but it was just not for me. But I did want to support newer authors and, you know, minority women authors too, newer authors, and this book checked all those boxes for me, but the story itself, it wasn't for me. So Glass Spare duology, Mirage duology. The Love Affairs of Nathaniel P. by Adelle Waldman, maybe? I saw this book everywhere. On Instagram, it was in Book of the Month, that subscription box, and I read it and I was disappointed. I was told it was like a modern day, you know, the Adele was kind of like a modern day Jane Austen, and I just didn't see it whatsoever. The protagonist was actually a male and he was kind of a pig. Like, he just kind of ran through women and he was full of himself. He represented what a lot of guys are like today in the dating world. He just wasn't likable at all. There was nothing redeeming about him. There was nothing redeeming about his ex-girlfriends or the girls that he, you know, dated, and just their behaviors and how they reacted to different things. There was just nothing redeeming about anyone, and the whole book just kind of pissed me off the whole time I read it, but I did finish it. There were some, you know, quippy things, and I think she did a good job of kind of representing dating in that sense in today's environment. Another book that fell flat for me. Overrated. I actually planned on donating that book. And then the last book was The Spring Girls by Todd. This is a YA Little Women retelling. It has all of these sisters, you know, they're all very different personalities. So you have some that are very socially averse, you have some that are very sexually open and promiscuous and know their sexual power and flaunt it and use it. But the book just was, the plot was unoriginal. I mean, it is a retelling, but it just felt unoriginal to me. I came to this book because I had previously read the After series, which is a series of 5 books by Todd. It's very smutty, toxic relationship focused on Tessa and Hardin Scott are the main characters in that, and it kind of takes you on this roller coaster ride of this nice girl, naive girl that goes away to college and meets this bad boy, Hardin, and it's just kind of their romance, and it follows that relationship over the years. That was kind of like my guilty pleasure read at the end of 2019 and early 2020. So I wanted to try out more Todd, and this book just was meh. There was nothing wrong with the writing itself. The story itself was just blah. That was a library rental from me. That's the thing about least favorite or worst books read or whatever. It's just, are you the intended audience? Is that why you had such an adverse reaction to something? You know, probably. So I thought I would just share what some of my misses were for this year. I'm pleased to say that the vast majority of everything I read in 2020 was excellent. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed most of the things I read this year, but there were just a few that stuck out as falling flat and not having anything special about them. And so that's my least faves quickie. All right, until next week, I will see you later. All right, bye.